You're 13 years old, and you just got into your older brother's Wi-Fi without asking him for the password. You didn't do anything special. You watched a 10-minute YouTube video, downloaded a program called AirCrack NG, and followed the steps exactly as shown. It took 40 minutes, and most of that was waiting. But when the password appeared on your screen, 8 characters, all lowercase, the name of his dog, something happened in your brain that hadn't happened before. A switch flipped. You go back and watch more videos, then more. You find forums where people talk about networking and operating systems in a language that sounds technical but starts to make sense the longer you sit with it. You install Kali Linux on an old laptop your dad was going to throw away. You break things constantly. The laptop crashes. You reinstall the system 4 times in 2 weeks. Each time you fix it yourself. You're not doing anything illegal. You're just learning. The same way other kids your age are learning to play guitar or practicing free throws in the driveway. The difference is that what you're learning has no obvious ceiling. Your grades are average, your social life is average, but at 2 a.m., in a bedroom lit by monitor glow, you feel like the smartest person in any room you'll ever walk into. That feeling is addictive, more addictive than anything else you've tried, and you haven't even done anything real yet. You're 15, and you've discovered that other people have already built the tools. You don't need to understand how an exploit works to use it. You just need to know where to download it, how to run it in the terminal, and what to do with the output. This is called being a script kiddie. Though you don't know that yet. You think you're a hacker. You're not. You're someone who borrowed someone else's lockpick and opened a door they left half unlocked. You DDoS your school's network on the day of a maths test you didn't revise for. The internet goes down for 3 hours. Teachers assume it's an infrastructure problem. Nobody suspects a 15-year-old in 3rd row. You feel untouchable. You try it again 2 months later, this time on a gaming server that banned you for cheating. The server goes offline for 40 minutes. You screenshot it and post it to a forum under an alias. People respond. They think you're older, more experienced. You don't correct them. The problem with this level is that you're noisy. You're using tools with well-known signatures. You're leaving logs in places you don't know exist yet. Every action you take is recorded somewhere. By the service you attacked, by your ISP, by the infrastructure in between. You think you're invisible because nothing has happened yet. But nothing happening isn't the same as nothing being tracked. Your ISP receives a complaint. They send your parents a letter. Your dad reads it at the kitchen table and asks if you know what a distributed denial of service attack is. You say no. He believes you. First close call. You get lucky. Most people at this level do. You're 17 and you've decided to actually learn. Not tools, fundamentals. You study how TCP/IP works, how packets move across networks, how servers authenticate requests, how code gets compiled and executed. You learn Python, then C. Then enough assembly to understand what's happening underneath the code you write. You read books that aren't written for beginners. You struggle through them anyway. You set up a home lab. 2 old computers connected through a router you configured yourself. You practice attacking one machine from the other. You understand, for the first time, what you were actually doing all those years with the downloaded tools. And you realize how much you didn't understand before. You find your first real vulnerability. A local business has a website with a login form that doesn't sanitize its inputs. You run a basic SQL injection. The database opens like a door with no lock. You see usernames, email addresses, passwords stored in plain text. Hundreds of them. You don't do anything with it. You're scared. But you screenshot it, sit with it for a week, then send an anonymous email to the business explaining what you found and how to fix it. They don't respond. 3 months later, the site gets breached by someone else, and the data ends up on a forum. You knew it was coming. You tried to warn them. That means something to you, though you're not sure what yet. You're not a script kiddie anymore. You're something harder to define. Someone who understands the architecture of systems that most people trust without thinking. What you do with that understanding is still undecided. You're 22. You have a laptop, a reputation on private forums, and a skill set that most people your age don't know is possible. You start doing bug bounties. Companies pay researchers to find vulnerabilities in their systems before criminals do. It's legal. It's respected. Some months you make £3,000. Some months you make nothing. You find a critical flaw in a major e-commerce platform's authentication system, and they pay you £18,000 and a thank you email. You screenshot the transfer and don't show anyone because nobody in your life would understand what they're looking at. You're good at this, maybe better than you realize. Then someone reaches out to you on a forum you trust. No name, just an offer. They've been watching your work. They need someone with your specific skills for something that isn't a bug bounty program. The target is a financial services company. They want access to internal systems. They're offering £40,000 for a successful breach. Cryptocurrency, untraceable, no violence, no drama, just data. You close the message and don't respond for 4 days. On the fifth day, you respond. You tell yourself it's just this once, that the company can afford it, that no real people get hurt when data moves between servers. You tell yourself a lot of things that sound reasonable at 2 a.m. when the number 40,000 pounds is sitting in front of you. You take the job. You get in. You deliver the data. The cryptocurrency arrives in a wallet you set up specifically for this. You spend the next 3 weeks waiting for something bad to happen. Nothing does. That's the most dangerous outcome. Nothing happening. Because it teaches you that you can do this again. You're 25 and you've done 11 jobs in 3 years. Corporate espionage mostly. Competitor intelligence. Stealing product roadmaps, internal communications, proprietary code. Sometimes selling access to a system rather than the data inside it. You have clients you've never met, paid in crypto, communicating through encrypted channels on platforms most people don't know exist. You live well but quietly. No flashy purchases. No unexplained income to friends or family. You work a part-time IT job that provides cover for your lifestyle and keeps your skills from getting soft. You pay taxes on the legitimate income. You're meticulous about the separation between what you are and what people think you are. But the paranoia is constant. You use different devices for different activities. Your personal phone has never been in the same room as your work setup. You route everything through VPNs layered over Tor. You change your operational patterns regularly, never hitting similar sectors twice in a row, never working with the same intermediaries more than twice. You are careful, more careful than most, but careful isn't the same as invisible. A client asks you to breach a hospital system. Not patient data, they want access to a procurement database. Supplier contracts, financial records. You do the reconnaissance and get in. What you find while you're inside stops you cold. Ransomware. Someone else is already in the system. A criminal group that doesn't share your rules. They're encrypting files, patient records, treatment plans, machines connected to the network that keep people alive. You could do nothing. You could leave. Instead, you spend 6 hours quietly disrupting the ransomware deployment, slowing it, buying time. You leave an anonymous tip to the hospital's IT team with enough detail to let them contain it. You don't know if it works. You never find out. You never contact that client again. That night, for the first time in years, you sit in front of your screen and don't know who you are. You're 28. Someone found you who you didn't want finding you. Not law enforcement. Something worse. A group with resources and reach, and no particular concern for your reluctance. They know enough about you to make refusing difficult. Not a threat, exactly. More like a demonstration. A file containing details about you that shouldn't exist. Proof that someone has been watching long enough to know things you thought were invisible. They want access to critical infrastructure, power grid management systems, water treatment networks, the kind of targets that exist in a category you always told yourself you'd never touch. You are no longer choosing your clients. You are being chosen. You do the work. You get access to systems that should be impossible to reach. You don't sabotage anything. You deliver the access and walk away and tell yourself you're not responsible for what they do with it. But you know that's not true. You've always known exactly what truth looks like because you've spent your entire life learning to see through the things people build to hide it. You start building an exit, quietly, carefully, saving documentation, evidence, not enough to burn yourself, but enough to matter if the right people saw it. You don't know yet what you're going to do with it, but keeping it makes you feel like you still have one decision left that belongs entirely to you. You're 30, and they're looking for you, not the group, law enforcement, multiple agencies, multiple countries, working a joint operation that has been running for 14 months without your knowledge. They've been mapping a network of intrusions across financial institutions, government contractors, and infrastructure providers. The breadcrumb trail leads through layers of obfuscation that took them a year to unpeel. Underneath it, there's a pattern, a signature in the code, the way you structure certain functions, the timestamps of your activity that follow a sleep cycle consistent with Greenwich Mean Time. Small things, individually meaningless. Together, they point at a person. You find out because you have a contact inside a forum that gets taken down in a coordinated seizure. Before the servers go dark, someone sends a single message to people they trust. 2 words. Get out. You shut everything down in 3 hours. Hard drives wiped beyond recovery. Devices destroyed physically. Cryptocurrency moved through a chain of wallets so long it will take analysts months to follow. You leave your flat with 1 bag and enough cash to move for a while. You've planned for this. You've always planned for this. But planning and living are different things. You move between cities, cash only, no phone, prepaid SIM cards bought from shops with no cameras, used once, discarded. You sleep in places that don't ask for ID, You stay off the internet entirely for 3 weeks, which, after 15 years of living inside, it feels like holding your breath underwater. They're close. You can feel it, the way you used to feel when you were deep inside someone else's system. That particular quality of silence that isn't actually silence. There are 3 ways this concludes. Only one of them is yours. Some people get caught. Tactical units at the door at 5 a.m., Europol and FBI badges side by side, devices seized before anything can be wiped. The charges come in across multiple jurisdictions. Years stack into decades. The skills that made you exceptional in the outside world make you institutional property in the inside one. They put you in a room with no network access and ask you questions for months. Some people disappear. New identity, new country, somewhere with no extradition treaty, and enough economic chaos that a quiet foreigner with cash and useful skills doesn't attract attention. They live small, careful, always watching the door, never fully present in any life they build because the previous one is always underneath it. Technically free, practically not. Some people turn. The same agencies hunting you make an offer. Immunity or reduction in exchange for cooperation. You become an asset. You do the same work you've always done, same intrusions, same access, same methodology, but now there's a badge behind it and a handler who debriefs you on Thursdays. The skills don't change, the logo on the door does. You had the file, the documentation. You spent 3 weeks in a city that wasn't your own, in a room above a shop that sold mobile phone cases, deciding what to do with it. You sent it, not to the press, not to a government, to a journalist with a verifiable record of protecting sources, along with enough technical context that anyone with the right background could corroborate every line. The story ran 6 weeks later. The group fractured under the scrutiny. 3 arrests in countries you'd never visited, systems you'd given access to, quietly secured by teams who didn't know they'd been inside. You didn't get credit, you didn't get immunity, you didn't get caught. You got a bus ticket and a decision to never open a terminal again. You're 30 years old. You have no degree, no employment history that makes sense on paper, no references, no pension. You have a brain that can see inside systems most people don't know exist. And you have the particular kind of exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from being too much for too long in a world that was never built for what you became. You find a room in a city where nobody knows your name, which, at this point, is the only kind of city worth living in. You sleep without an alarm for the first time in a decade. It's not peace exactly, but it's close enough to feel like something worth staying for.